Okay, here we are. We are live. Sorry about that clunky start. But I am David Korn, joined by Leo Momurku, who is live from Eagle Bank Arena after GW just lost 69-64 to George Mason in the first men's edition of the Revolutionary Rivalry this year. That was a crazy game on CBSS, and for anyone who was watching, anyone who was there who's maybe catching this on the ride home. Liam, I just want to hear your sort of first takeaways from again a fun game to watch, but a very frustrating one.
Yeah, I mean, I think you kind of that's a good summation of it. It was a very fun game to watch, but it was a very frustrating ending. This is now, I don't know how many times it's been, but GW has had these close losses to George Mason. It just keeps happening. They lost last year. They lost 2 times by 3 points to George Mason. They were winning with very little time left in the game today. Yeah, I mean, it's really frustrating, and ultimately it came down to late game execution. There's a few different spots, but I mean, the one that's going to get the most attention is 13 seconds left. They're down 3, and Tyrone Marshall throws the ball out of bounds. Chris Caputo said in the press conference that was a miscommunication. It's actually a play that they practice every single practice. They run that play, but because the personnel was a little different, they messed it up. There was supposed to be some sort of a back screen pump fake throw to the one guy, throw to the other guy. He, I guess, would have been open. I actually have not seen a replay of that play, but it was thrown to the wrong guy. There was some frustration afterwards on the bench about that. But this is a play they run all the time, and they just, because there were different guys on
so
the
you
floor.
think the implication was that because Boo Boo Benjamin was out, basically, he was supposed to be fulfilling a certain role. Everyone else's roles got mixed up, and like someone was just in the wrong place.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, maybe I guess it would probably have to be Boo Boo because everyone else was there. But
yeah, there was no foul trouble, no other injuries. I know Ty Bevins was the linchpin of that.
Right.
The other guy who was out. But
right. It was supposed to go to the one trade and went to the other.
Well, because I know you saw Autry's sort of his reaction after that play. Can you sort of share what you saw from him on that?
He just came over after they threw the ball out of bounds. He just came over very frustrated and said something like he didn't do the play. Like he didn't do what he was supposed to do. Like he just didn't throw it to the right place.
So in my head, I'm thinking, I'm sort of piecing this together. It seems like, again, I don't know, you don't know, but it seems like maybe Boo Benjamin was supposed to have been the trigger on that. Marshall sort of filling in for him in this role. Obviously, they play similar position, similar size, was substituted in to do that, and he maybe was not as familiar with the play as someone else would.
Yeah, but again, this is a play that they run every day in practice, literally every day. So
not an excuse. I'm just, again, we're trying to piece together what happened, because for a lot of people, something like that, coming out of a timeout, doing an inbounds play, to mess it up to that level is pretty. It looks bad. I was debating whether to say inexcusable, because I think we've come up with some reasons why this may have happened that make sense. But it is a very frustrating way for a game to end, knowing that everything was sort of set up so at least you could get the ball off cleanly and then give yourself a chance to make a play after that.
And I mean, for what it's worth, in the post-game press conference, Caputo said that the guy who was supposed to go to was open, and like whether he makes the shot or not.
You agree with that?
I don't know. Listen, I love.
We didn't really see a replay either on TV because it went straight to another game after. It seems like the CBS Sports Network got a little behind in all of their games.
Yeah, they got behind. They had to push the tip of the GW game a little bit. I honestly couldn't see a lot of what happened in this game as a whole because I was sitting directly behind the GW bench and they kept standing up, which is great, and they're allowed to do that. But it was a lot of me looking up at the jumbotron there. So
I mean, yeah, I've watched many a game from the press area at Eagle Bank, and it is not the best vantage point. But any other big takeaways from the press conference?
I mean, nothing groundbreaking. Chris Caputo said something about Bill Courtney, who he was was at George Mason with. They did a moment of silence before the game.
Nice that Caputo was here for that.
It is nice that he made a point to talk with Tony Skinn about it, and made sure that they did something for it. So the substitution nonsense that I was so confused. I had no idea what was happening. But
They did a pretty good job. Sajak and Hibbert did a pretty good job of breaking down what was going on TV. So if I can take this, if you would.
yeah, go for it. I mean, for Chris Capito said in the press conference, I tried to sneak a guy in and they caught me. That's what he said. So.
Yeah. So basically, again, like GW was inbounding under the basket, normal inbounds. They were doing their subs. Then like just sort of as like the timer, when they like do the countdown to get the inbounds in. He tried to run someone in. I think he was trying to run Dinkins in instead of Hunger. And then Tony Skin got mad, started talking to the refs. The refs huddled, and they took like a while to figure out what to do.
Well, that was the thing, is there was all this confusion, and then all of these like Mason fans were booing, and the Mason fans had no idea what a foul was. They were very upset about that. Just generally, they just had a misconception of what a foul was.
So if Capito admitted it was some gamesmanship, that's probably what it was, because it seems like his plan was to call that timeout no matter what. So maybe if he got a right look, maybe he was going to tell Dinkins if he gets in, okay, Dinkins, you're in. If you can get a shot off, take it. But I mean, I don't know. I don't think I think that was sort of, so let's run through some of the stats from the game. GW's offense mostly came from three guys: Garrett Johnson, Rafael Castro, Trey Autry. Johnson was back in the starting lineup. He had 18 points a game, tied for a game high 18, tied with Riley Allensbach and George Mason, who had a great game on the offense.
Yeah, he was good. He played really well.
Johnson was looking aggressive. He was shooting well from three, less maybe volume than we've seen in the past, but when he was driving to the rim, he was sort of able to get whatever he wanted. Rafael Castro had 17 points and 12 rebounds, very efficient. But I think with Castro, I think the biggest thing that people will remember is with about a minute, just under a minute left, that really bad miss he had. He got a mismatch. Allensbach was sort of like a guy away from it on a double, and Castro had a big size advantage down low and just shanked a layup. That is something that is definitely in his bag, and that would have changed the final minute a lot if he was able to get that in, or at least even draw a foul on that.
Right. Throughout the game, GW struggled with layups. With some of the shots that they probably should be making. And Capito mentioned that in the press conference. He basically said, like, we've been a good team shooting near the basket, or a good 2-point shooting team, and we just missed a bunch of them today.
Yeah. And then the other guy who GW was able to lead on for some offense, Trey Autry, 12 points. All of those were on threes. He was 4 of 6 from three. And he's a guy who I think has consistently shown that in a big moment, he's someone you can lean on. And so I think what you were sort of insinuating, and Capito was insinuating, was that the ball was supposed to go to Autry. And I like a guy like Autry taking the final shots. Everyone remembers his heroics against Fordham in the second round of the A10 tournament last year, where he had the Treys that really saved the day in what would have been a era-defining loss, I think is fair to say, if GW lost to Fordham in that game. And he's a guy who's been clutch his whole career. And it's what do you think about his game? Because again, he had those threes, but other than that, he wasn't super involved. He had some fouls. He was good on the glass at the start of the game. He was one of GW's only players who was really able to grab a board to start. What did you see from Autry?
Yeah, I mean, I thought he was all right, and you can always rely on him for a few threes. He was about 4 for 6 from three, but I mean, he's getting to the point where like he's a leader on this team, and you want him in a game like this. You want him to be a difference maker, and I mean, there is an argument that he could have been if he got the ball and whatever. But I don't know. It's gotten to the point where with Trey Autry, it's not like, oh, this is nice and this is a bonus. It's like you need him to win you games like this. So, yeah.
So another thing so this was we've obviously both seen George Mason throughout the year on TV. This was your first time seeing them in person. This was my first time really like sitting down and watching a full game of theirs. Sort of my soul, what I mean? Like this was our first experience really digesting a George Mason game. They're 18-1. They got some votes in the AP poll. What do you think? Do you think George Mason is for real?
I don't know. They went through this really weak non-conference. They lost to pretty much the only good team they played, and I kind of thought they were frauds. And then they beat VCU, and then they beat GW now. Um, they've been good in close games, which is important.
Yeah.
I'm still not 100% bought in. Um, so
That's
I
the
mean, if they keep winning, then you know, what are you gonna?
So I was like debating what to do with them in my A10 Talk power rankings this week. And I think my toughest call was how to sort out. Obviously, I had St. Louis 1. I didn't really care about like 5 after. I think you could make an argument for a lot of different ways there with how those teams have performed. But sort of trying to rank out George Mason, Dayton, and VCU was very difficult for me. And at a certain point, I felt like I couldn't, I had to respect just the consistency of Mason
Yeah, they
and
just keep winning.
the
Yeah,
teams in front of them, right? Like I can't fault that. And I watched them, and yes, they beat GW, but I wasn't thrilled with GW's performance, right? And they kept it pretty close against Mason. And so I'm sort of I feel like I haven't gotten a lot of answers on George Mason after this game, and I'm not really sure because I think they're a very talented team offensively. Alan Spock, very versatile, sort of face up big. I really like his game, but I think he has some significant defensive um, flaws. And whenever Castro was able to get one on one with him, that was a matchup he was winning. And while Castro will do that with a lot of guys, it didn't seem even really tough for him. I don't know what it looked like from your end on the floor, but Mincy and Troutman are great. You know, Fats Hill off the bench. Seemed like they just always had a guy who could make a defensive play and you know keep the chains moving coming in. And so I don't know if I think of them as maybe as talented as VCU or obviously as St. Louis, who I think at this rate is could end up with like a top 5 seed in March
yeah,
Madness. We should be
they're
really
an at-large at
yeah.
the very least.
So, but like I think St. Louis, VCU, Dayton, I would say even GW at this point is more talented than George Mason.
Yeah,
But
but
I mean, you have to respect the results. You have to respect the execution down the stretch, and they do enough to win.
Tony Skinn is such a good coach. I mean, I don't know if he'll get a job this spring, but he's good enough to be a
Well,
Power
I know
Five
he just
coach.
got a big extension last year. I FOIA'd George Mason. I can find the details of that,
That's
but it
right,
is
you did do
significant.
that.
And there are significant buyouts, or that like Mason would get a lot of money, I think, if he leaves. And
Right.
so
Yeah. I mean, that's something we can talk about closer to the date, but like he's a good enough coach to be a Power Five coach. And,
oh
you know,
yeah.
George Mason is not Dayton. George Mason is not St. Louis. They're like, yeah, it's a significant buyout, but like, you know, it's George Mason, like they don't have like the money that if Tony Skinn came to him and was like, I just got this offer from Rutgers or,
I
whatever.
don't think he but the thing about Tony Skinn, right? I guess we're gonna talk some Tony Skinn search season right now. But
I'm always down for Tony Skinn's search season. I need Tony Skinn to stop being the coach at George Mason because it's time and again he has shown that he just is like beats Chris Capito head to head every
so
single time.
he's winning at Mason, right? And
Yeah,
having a lot of success here so far. I think he sort of has an opportunity to wait for the job he wants.
that's true.
Um,
Maryland would have
I,
been good for him last year, but they
I
didn't.
thought Maryland would have been great. I don't know if I think he signed that extension a bit before all that stuff was finalized. I don't know if Patsos had zeroed in on him as a candidate.
That's
If people
oh my
forget, GW analyst Jimmy Patsos, who has a some sway in the Maryland athletics department for his work with Under Armour and some stuff in the grassroots basketball community over there. Because of all the athletic director turmoil, he ended up being one of the key decision makers for the men's basketball coaching search that landed them Buzz Williams. Um, but yeah, I think Maryland would have been a great stop for him. The I mean, Odom's doing a great job at Virginia, but I think Virginia Tech, if that opens up, could be a
yeah.
great spot for him. He had spent time at Tennessee and Ohio State, I believe, right?
I think so. Yeah. I mean, I think I don't know how likely it is now, but Ohio State might be a little warm, so maybe we could get that. I don't know.
Ohio State, I feel like would be a great spot for him to go back to. But I mean, if you're any high major, like he should be at the top of your list. He's
Yeah.
shown that he can find diamonds in the rough in the portal. I think better than almost anyone in the country. Coming into this year, none of these transfers for Mason really caught my eye, but it's working, and they're doing this all without Braden O'Connor, which I think is also pretty crazy.
It seems to me like he is not going to come back this year. That is the vibe that I got from a discussion with one person today.
Yeah.
Just to be transparent, is one person.
No, and I appreciate that's what you get when you're boots on the ground. You people can be a little loose lipped sometimes, but that's really interesting. And
maybe he will come back, but I don't know.
They don't need him.
They look
good without it.
Great without him.
So, what do you think GW needs to do to sort of turn this season around? Because this has been a very disappointing start to conference play. A loss to a very beatable Dayton team without their two centers, Amelo Tong and Malcolm Thomas. I don't know if Malcolm Thomas is really center, but I would say two of their more physical bigs without them. Lost to Davidson, who I do not think is a very good team. And then this loss right here. So what do you think GW needs to do to turn it around?
I think, it seems pretty clear that the defense is bad. The defense is not good, and it is in some respects gotten a little bit better in recent games, but like this team needs to score 90 points a game. Like that's how they're going to win. That's how they were win in non-conference play when they looked, in fairness, they were playing lesser opponents, but like they need to be hitting threes. They need to be making their open layups. They need to be, cutting down on the turnovers, which that wasn't really a problem today. But I don't know. I don't honestly, I'm not really sure because it's like, oh, well, they have the talent, but it's just not, they haven't been able to put it together at the level that I think a lot of us hoped they would be able to. A lot of it has been late game execution. Like the late game execution was bad today. Like and it wasn't just the one play where Tyrone Marshall threw it away. Like they had one where it went through Rafael Castro's hands and other stuff. So, that's been a problem, and I don't think that's just a this year problem. I think that's been a problem for the last few years. So, I don't know. What do you think? What do you think they need to do to fix it?
It's really tough because you don't want to. I actually kind of liked that. Not that I'm saying it was good that Uwe Benjamin was out, but I think the idea of tightening up the rotations isn't the worst.
Yeah,
and I think that Marshall had a few good plays, like that three he made some athletic plays on both ends, but I think especially at the forward spot, I think maybe you sort of have Benjamin and Marshall's minutes or do something like that, because I kind of like these three guard sets that GW runs. And I think Garrett Johnson has shown that he needs to be on the floor. So I like the sets where it's sort of two of Christian Jones, John Arnger, and Trey Dinkins, then Autry, and then someone else. And so I like how that will. I kind of like the Capito or the Castro Hunger minutes. We haven't talked about that yet.
Yeah.
I was looking through it. I don't subscribe to Evan Mia, so I don't have access to all of the lineup data. But it's like from eye test and memory, they can't have shared the court for more than a few minutes before that this year, right? I don't think so. And
yeah, I mean they certainly didn't start together before this.
No, never started together. And then I'm a fascination with jumbo lineups, and so I usually try and take a note whenever I see like two centers in there. I think it's fun, and I don't really remember it happening too much other than on maybe like late game free throw situations. And so I thought they played really well together. I know Roy Hibbert on the CBS Sports Network call who I very much like as a broadcaster.
I thought he was good. I think he did the GW Dayton game. I think
He
he's
did,
good.
no, he didn't do Dayton. He
Did
did,
he do Loyola Chicago?
yeah. And
He's good.
he spent a lot of time talking about the big man play, which obviously that would make sense. And he was very complimentary of Hunger about what he was doing on both ends of the floor. Like early, I know he had a lot of these drives to the basket. He threw some free throws. He was defending Allensbach a lot. Like I liked what I saw from that. And on defense, that allows Castro to be sort of more like a roamer, which I think really works for him to get in passing lanes, maybe get some weak side blocks. So if the shooting around them, because I know the shooting in the first half, when I think you saw more of those minutes with them both on the floor, the 3-point shooting was a little tough. I do think it got a little clogged up. But I think if they are able to find a way to get that 3 ball to go with those 2 on the floor, I think that could be a way for this team to find some success. Because you saw how much better Castro played last year with Ron Hansen next to him. And so that could be just sort of a way to maybe get some more productive minutes. I don't know. Do you have your box in front of you? What was Luke's plus minus today?
-1.
Well, like that's not that bad. I feel like he's usually
He's been a bit of a problem on defense for. Oh wait, this was only the first half.
Oh.
Well,
either way, first half -1. They went into the half down 8. So.
Yeah, when they went into the half trailing, I was like, oh, we could have a problem.
So man, that shows that Hunger was not the problem in the first half.
Right.
And so I wouldn't hate some double big lineups, whether they start that or just sort of mix it in throughout. I think that could be an effective change. And another idea, maybe start Trey Dinkins. I know
he barely played at all in the second half.
I know, but
and then they brought him in cold.
I think that could maybe help. If the defense is going to be a problem either way, maybe just lean into the offense and just know you got to outscore teams. And I think to do that, you need Dinkins on the floor. And I wouldn't hate to see him maybe get a start. And
yeah, he wasn't really hit. I think he missed his first few shots today, and they kind of he just didn't really play much.
And he's been so streaky. So if you can find a way to get a little bit more consistency from him, I'm envisioning.
I just don't know if that's possible.
I agree, but I'm envisioning a starting lineup: Christian Jones, Trey Dinkins, Trey Austin, Garrett Johnson, Rafael Castro, and so all out.
Yeah.
Is anyone walking by who wants to say hi on the GW Basketball Insiders?
No, not really. Yeah.
What was the media presence like at the game today? I'm curious because I know GW Mason can sometimes get the local guys out.
That was good. There was
the press conference full.
What's that?
Press conference full.
Yeah, full press conference. Good showing from both student media groups.
That's good. I know Mason student media has not always been as active.
There was one Mason student media guy that my name was not on the list when I first showed up, and there was another kid who his name was also not on the list, and they were like, "All right, Liam, like you're good to go," because I had, emailed the Mason SID and whatever, and then the other guy was like, "Nope, can't come in." So they turned him away. I was like, "Okay."
Wow.
Do we want? First of all, they handed these out at the game. Isn't this cool?
You have an extra you can snag for me? That's electric.
I think I have an extra. I don't know. I got one, and then there's another one just laying here. I can grab one for you. I don't know next time.
Cool. Wait, show it again and point out some of the features on this game day poster.
Okay, so number 1 feature, that's George Washington. Number 2 feature, that's George Mason. Okay, Is that good? No, I'm just kidding. I mean, it's pretty. They got the flag. They got the. What else are we looking at here? So they have the. I'll tell you what. George Mason's campus. That's not on George Mason's campus. That's for sure.
So I have a question. I've noticed that this has been referred to more as the Battle of the Georges and not as much the Revolutionary Rivalry.
I think the Revolutionary Rivalry died when the one team made it their damn mascot. I'm still calling it the Revolutionary Rivalry. I think that's a better name.
Until we're being told otherwise, I think we will continue to do that because I also think the alliteration is way better than Battle of the Georges.
Right. It's a free country for now. And it's like the Battle of the Orange Line.
No, that's stupid. They're not on the orange line. They're not on the orange
25 minutes from the goddamn orange line.
I know, they're not on the orange line. And that is one of the 3 lines that services the Foggy Bottom Metro, so it's not even like GW is like an orange line school. So I think that's disingenuous in all senses of the phrase.
Do you see? We got some comments here that I'm just noticing.
Oh,
Why don't we review those, and then I don't know if you have any more thoughts after that, but I kind of want to wrap up and go home. I'm
wait,
tired.
where
I'm
are you
gonna have
seeing these comments?
I might only see them because I'm like the admin.
Ah,
Show comment. Maybe I'll click show comments on stage.
oh, I like that. Oh,
Okay.
we have some.
See, we got some comments. Okay. The very top one is from an individual named Liam, who spells it a way that I've never seen
I
that
think
name.
he does some work with George Mason multimedia.
Okay. Well, he says buy in. Sore losers. GW more talented. LOL. Okay. Just for the record, David said that. I did not say that. David said that. David said that.
Wait, what did I say?
That GW was more talented than.
Yeah,
George
I think
Mason.
they are.
All right. Well, you're gonna have to have a talk.
I mean, I think
Liam
George Mason obviously won and is having a better year, but I think if you go head to head, like up and down in the rotation, I think GW's I think GW's guys I would pretty much like if you were doing a draft, right? Of these two teams, I think GW players would pretty much get picked.
I saw there's a chance.
And I see someone else wondering why we're doing this during the national title game, and
We'll play.
the A10 doesn't have football.
That's when the game happened. What is the? Do you know the score of the national title game right now?
And I'm all footballed out because I just watched a great Patriots, New England Patriots, not George Mason Patriots.
So you're pro. Yeah, you're pro the New England Patriots.
I am not also anti George Mason by any.
No, I understand that. Neither am I. But some of their fans online.
But I had a great day watching football for that, and I've never been a college football fan really. I grew up in the Northeast. So my options were like BC or UConn, so I'm not really swimming in options there. But during the national title game, I know my roommates are surprised that I am podcasting about A10 basketball right now instead of watching with them. But that's the life I choose.
Yeah. What else? What other comments? Luke Hunger really needs to temper down on 3-point attempts. I agree. I think he needs to. I think he might have something in his contract about it. You want to make a live appearance on the GW Basketball Insiders podcast? No. All right. Well,
who'd you just book?
That was Kevin. That was the GW SID.
I think they just want to get in that bus and get back to campus.
Yeah, he said, "I'm good." So.
And then, I'll address Brianna's other comment. If
I
George
agree with her,
does not lose again the rest of the season before the A10 tournament, they are absolutely not large. Yeah, and I think they can afford some other losses. I think they can afford a loss to St. Louis.
They don't play St. Louis until the very last game of the season.
Is that their only time playing them?
That is the only time they play St. Louis, and St. Louis could have the title wrapped up by then. So would they rest some players? Maybe, I don't know.
Interesting.
Probably not.
But I think they could afford that loss. I think the more damaging thing for George Mason would maybe be losing early in the A10 tournament than maybe
that's a good point.
The regular season. So I know in the don't know how the field is going to look, right? But the committee is still a committee. They will weigh tournament results more. If they lose early, let's say they lose to let's say GW meets them in the quarterfinals after they have a double bye. GW is hot. They played them close without playing that well. I think that's a nightmare matchup for the Patriots, and they could very easily lose early. Then if they lose early, I don't think I would worry more about a long run in the A10 tournament for George Mason than I would necessarily be about maybe the rest of the way, because I haven't been overly impressed with the A10 outside of the top four I discussed earlier. St. Louis, George Mason, VCU, Dayton. And so other than that, I would worry more about a tournament setting than the regular season. Obviously, you don't want to lose a bunch, but I don't know.
Yeah, we'll see. A10 tournament in Pittsburgh this year. I don't think I'm going to be able to go. My stupid job means I'm not going to be able to go. Anyway,
if GW makes the title, I will make a late night drive.
That's probably what I'll do, but
to get there.
Do you think GW? I mean, after what we've seen do you think GW is going to make the title? I don't think so.
I just said what would happen if that does happen.
Okay, do you think GW will ever beat George Mason ever again at men's basketball and women's basketball? They can't beat them there.
Probably. Women's basketball less likely. I think.
Yeah.
I think men's basketball. I don't know. I would
Yeah.
hope. I think that would be fun for the revolutionary rivalry / battle of the Georges if GW could win a few. So
It would be nice. It would be nice.
well,
All
Chick
right.
Hernandez, we there is a national title game going on. Chris
There's also
Caputo,
apparently a wild Providence Marquette game going on right now. If
it's weird. I haven't heard my upstairs neighbors who all went to Providence. I haven't heard them, so
really.
maybe they're watching the Natty too. But Chris Caputo's Miami Hurricanes versus is there a GW connection to Indiana that I'm missing? Mo Creek.
I don't know.
Mo Creek's
There
Indiana.
you go.
So
There that's the GW connection there.
that is a unique sentence that we just made up there. I don't think that has ever been said before. So on that note, Liam, any final thoughts from Eagle Bank?
My final thoughts from Eagle Bank are I'm dreading this drive home. I'm driving back to Pennsylvania right now. It's going to be like a
You're in
2.5.
straight from Fairfax to.
I got to be at freaking work tomorrow in 12 hours. Never get a job. If any of you are unemployed, don't ever get a job. It sucks. It's the worst thing in the world. Those are my closing thoughts. All right, We'll talk to you soon.
All right. Appreciate you listening. Appreciate the interaction. And when stuff happens with GW basketball, we will be broadcasting.